Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining the FY 2026 Transitioning Gang Involved Youth to Higher Education, or TGIY, program Pre-Application Technical Assistance webinar. My name is Jamise Seward, and I serve as the FY 2026 TGIY Competition Manager and Program Lead. You may contact our team anytime at tgiy-hep@ed.gov. Today's session is designed to walk you through the competition requirements, priorities, selection criteria, and application components. Our goal is to help you submit a strong, complete application. Again, my name is Jamise Seward, serving as both the competition manager and program lead for the TGIY program. On behalf of myself and FIPSI Division Director, Dr. Stacy Slijepcevic, I will thank you again for your interest in both this program and this year's competition. At the conclusion of this webinar, if you have any additional questions or points of clarification, please feel free to reach out to me directly. My contact information is included on this slide, as well as in the announcement notice and instructions, also referred to as the Annie, as well as the TGIY program page. This recording and PowerPoint slide deck will be available on the TGIY program webpage under the Resources tab by early next week. Before we begin, please note the announcement notice and instructions, again also referred to as the Annie for the duration of this webinar, has been published on grants.gov and in the Federal Register, which is the official application guide. This webinar provides technical assistance only. Always defer to the Annie for authoritative guidance. Here is our agenda for today. We will begin with an overview of the ED and DOL partnership and how TGIY aligns with America's Talent Strategy. We'll then discuss the program purpose, applicant eligibility, the competition's priorities, selection criteria, performance measures, and finally, the application and submission process. Throughout this presentation, you'll see several acronyms such as AP, CPP, IHE, EDGAR, ALN, and many others. This slide provides a quick reference list. I'll be using some of these terms as we move through this presentation. The TGIY program is part of a historic partnership between the Departments of Education and Labor. This program's goal is to strengthen educational programming directly tied to workforce success and economic mobility. This partnership supports strategies that align learning pathways with high-skill, high-wage career opportunities. Through America's Talent Strategy, these two agencies are working together to expand career-connected learning and align education with high-wage workforce opportunities. For TGIY participants, this means access to in-demand and high-value occupations, industry-recognized credentials, work-based learning, including internships, pre-apprenticeships, and registered apprenticeships, AI literacy, and pathways that improve economic mobility and long-term success. So why workforce matters for transitioning gang-involved youth to higher education, again, is through connection to in-demand, high-wage, high-skill occupations, industry-recognized and skill-based credentials, work-based learning opportunities, AI literacy, and responsible AI use, also um, referred to as the AI literacy framework, improved completion, employment, earnings, and economic mobility, as well as employer driven pathways and measurable labor market outcomes. We'll next discuss briefly program information and applicable laws and regulations. The purpose of the TGIY program is to fund institutions of higher education and organizations with direct experience serving gang-involved youth, helping participants pursue higher education that leads to recognized credentials or certifications. Again, this program is administered by both the Departments of Education and the Departments of Labor and fully supports America's talent strategy and the administration's reindustrialization agenda. Projects should create concrete pathways that link post-secondary education with workforce opportunities, including those such as registered apprenticeships. Projects should deliver high-quality post-secondary education and training opportunities, integrate or align with registered apprenticeships, build seamless transitions from disengagement into education and the workforce, and strengthen partnerships among nonprofits, IHEs, employers, and apprenticeship sponsors. This slide contains applicable laws and regulations to the TGIY program. Please use this as a reference, as projects that are awarded must operate in a manner consistent with the program authority and the applicable regulations. Be sure to review again the program authority, Edgar 34 CFR, Part 75, 77, 79, 82, 84, 86, 97, 98, and 99, Uniform Guidance, 2 CFR 200, and 2 CFR 3474, the Secretary's Supplemental and Administrative Priorities, and federal civil rights requirements. Next, for the FY 2026 competition overview. Key details include the ALN or Assistance Listing Number 84.116Y. The notice was published on grants.gov on May 21st, 2026, with a deadline of June 23rd, 2026. The estimated funds for this program is $5 million, with the estimated number of awards to be made at 4. The award range is $1 million to $1.7 million, with a project period up to 48 months. There are no cost sharing or matching requirements. This program does not involve not supplant funding requirements. This program uses an unrestricted indirect cost, and subgrantees are permitted. Thus, a grantee under this competition may award subgrants to directly carry out project activities described in its application to entities listed in the grant application. Regarding applicant eligibility, eligible entities include public or private, nonprofit institutions of higher education, public or private nonprofit agencies or organizations, And note that public agencies includes state education agencies. Nonprofits must demonstrate nonprofit status with acceptable documentation. Additionally, applicants may submit only one application as lead, but may participate as partners in multiple applications. If eligibility is unclear, your application may be deemed ineligible. Thus, please document your entity type thoroughly. And listed on this slide are 4 ways that an applicant can demonstrate its nonprofit status. The first is proof that the Internal Revenue Service currently recognizes the applicant as an organization to which contributions are tax deductible under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. The second is a statement from a state taxing body or the state attorney general certifying that the organization is a nonprofit organization operating within the state and that no part of its net earnings may lawfully benefit any private shareholder or individual. The third is a certified copy of the applicant's certificate of incorporation or similar document if it clearly establishes the nonprofit status of the applicant, or 4, any item described above if that item applies to a state or national parent organization, together with a statement by the state or parent organization that the applicant is a local nonprofit affiliate. Again, applicants may only submit one application as the lead fiscal agent. However, applicants are allowed to be designated as a partner or subgrantee on multiple applications for which they are not the lead applicant or fiscal agent. Note, if an applicant submits multiple applications as the lead applicant or fiscal agent, only the application with the latest date time received validation will be reviewed. The FY 2026 TGIY competition includes 2 absolute priorities, which are required, meaning both absolute priorities must be addressed in your application's project narrative. They are: 1, working directly with gang-involved youth to support higher education access or opportunities, and absolute priority 2, career pathways and workforce readiness. This competition includes 1 optional competitive preference priority, which is returning education to the states. And this competitive preference priority awards 10 additional points with appropriate documentation from a governor or chief state education official. Again, the absolute priorities 1 and 2 must be addressed in your project narrative. The competitive preference priority is optional. So here is again a description of each absolute priority. So to meet absolute priority 1, an eligible applicant must demonstrate that the project will work directly with gang-involved youth to help such youth pursue higher education opportunities. Absolute priority 2, career pathways and workforce readiness. Projects or proposals that are designed to do one or more of the following: support workforce development programs that are aligned with the state's priorities, which may include promoting the attainment by individuals of an in-demand and high-value industry recognized post-secondary credential, providing work-based learning opportunities for which a student receives wages and/or academic credit, expanding the availability of apprenticeships and registered apprenticeships through one or more of the following under dual or concurrent enrollment, supporting apprenticeship intermediaries, creating pre-apprenticeships, creating new registered apprenticeships to include apprenticeships for in-school and out-of-school youth, providing technical assistance for states to create new registered apprenticeships to include apprenticeships for in-school and out-of-school youth as well as adult learners, and provide career and/or college exploration and advising opportunities to promote greater awareness of the range of post-secondary educational and career options. Competitive preference priority for this competition, again, it's only one and it's optional, is returning education to the states. So these are projects or proposals that will be carried out by entities identified, designated, or endorsed by a governor or chief state education official for the purpose of implementing the project or proposal. If this application successfully addresses the CPP, then the applicant will receive an additional 10 points. To adequately respond to this CPP, applicants should include a letter of designation or endorsement by the governor or chief state education official in response to the competitive preference priority. An applicant should upload this document to the other attachments form. As it relates to the selection criteria, the selection criteria are the criteria against which the peer reviewers evaluate and score each application. The department selects grantees based on peer reviewer scores, so clearly addressing the selection criteria is critical. Respond to each selection criteria and each sub-criteria in the appropriate section, and the project narrative should be organized in labeled sections that correspond to and follow the order of the selection criteria. The selection criteria for this program contains a maximum score of 100 points. Again, should an applicant address the competitive preference priority and earn an additional 10 points, then the maximum score for that application under both the competitive preference priority and the selection criteria is 110. The project narrative is where the applicant provides detailed responses to each selection criteria as the project pertains to each absolute priority, and if applicable, responses to the competitive preference priority and invitational priority. Again, for this competition, there is no invitational priority, just one competitive preference priority. Applicants should respond to the selection criteria in the same order as it is presented in the ANI. And again, each section should be clearly labeled and separately addressed. The selection criteria is listed here. Need for project. So this shows the magnitude of the problem and its alignment to your target population. The maximum score here is 20 points. Significance, where you demonstrate innovation, contribution to the field, and likely impact for a maximum of 10 points. Quality of project design, where you provide clear goals, measurable objectives, engagement, sustainability, and alignment, is worth a maximum of 30 points. Quality of management plan, so the inclusion of timelines, roles, qualification, budget alignment, and partner coordination, to name a few, is worth a maximum of 30 points. And finally, quality of project evaluation, where you describe methods, metrics, interim measures, and continuous improvement strategies, is worth a maximum of 10 points. So the selection criteria for need for project, the secretary considers the need for the proposed project. In determining the need for the proposed project, the secretary considers one or more of the following factors. One, the data presented, including a comparison to local, state, regional, national, or international data that demonstrates the issue, challenge, or opportunity to be addressed by the proposed project, is worth up to 5 points. Number two, the extent to which the proposed project will support resources or services, will provide support, resources, or services, or otherwise address the needs of the target population, challenge, or opportunity to be addressed by the proposed project, and close gaps in educational opportunity, is worth up to 5 points. Number three, the extent to which the specific nature and magnitude of gaps or challenges are identified, and the extent to which these gaps or challenges will be addressed by the services, supports, infrastructure, or opportunities described in the proposed project. And number four, the extent to which the proposed project will prepare individuals for employment in fields and careers in which there are demonstrated shortages. It's worth up to 5 points. And on this slide are some project narrative tips and questions to consider that you may find helpful as you develop your application. So identify and analyze the issues, challenges, and/or opportunities to be addressed. Utilize current data specific to the issues and populations to be served, and describe how the proposed project will effectively address the magnitude of the gaps to be addressed. Think about, have you clearly demonstrated the issue, challenge, or opportunity using high quality data? Do you explain the magnitude and specific nature of the gaps we aim to address? Have you shown how your project services, supports, infrastructure, or opportunities directly respond to the identified gaps? And are data sources recent, credible, and aligned with the population or context you intend to serve? Selection criteria, significance. The secretary considers the significance of the proposed project. In determining the significance of the proposed project, the secretary considers one or more of the following factors: the extent to which findings from the project's implementation will contribute new knowledge to the field by increasing knowledge or understanding of educational challenges, including the underlying or related challenges and effective strategies for addressing educational challenges and their effective implementation. It's worth up to 5 points. In addition, the importance or magnitude of the results or outcomes likely to be attained by the proposed project, especially improvements in employment, independent living services, or both as appropriate. Again, also up to 5 points. And here are narrative tips and questions to consider, including identify and analyze potential gaps, challenges, and issues to be addressed, how the proposed project is innovative and will be more effective compared to similar efforts, and discuss the impact of the proposed project and outcomes, particularly improvements in teaching practices and student learning and achievement. So think, how will the project help the grantee build upon existing effective strategies in the field? How will the project have an impact beyond the grantee or the community it serves? What mechanism will the project design to leverage successes and lessons learned to similar organizations or target populations? Quality of the project design, up to 30 points. The Secretary considers the quality of the design of the proposed project. In determining the quality of the design of the proposed project, the Secretary considers one or more of the following factors: the extent to which the goals, objectives, and outcomes to be achieved by the proposed project are clearly specified, measurable, and ambitious, yet achievable within the project period and aligned to the purposes of the grant program. The extent to which the design of the proposed project demonstrates meaningful community engagement and input to ensure that the project is appropriate to successfully address the needs of the target population or other identified needs and will be used to inform continuous improvement strategies. The extent to which the proposed project demonstrates that it is designed to build capacity and yield sustainable results that will extend beyond the project period. The extent to which the proposed project will integrate or build on ideas, strategies, and efforts for similar external projects to improve relevant outcomes using existing funding streams from other programs or policies supported by community, state, and federal resources. The likelihood that the services to be provided by the proposed project will lead to meaningful improvements in the skills and competencies necessary to gain employment in high quality jobs, careers, and industries, or build capacity for independent living. And the extent to which the training or professional development to be provided by the proposed project are of sufficient quality, intensity, and duration to build recipient and project capacity in ways that lead to improvements in practice among the recipients of those services. This slide contains project narrative tips and questions to consider as it relates to quality of project design. So identify the goals of the proposed project and design activities and services that directly address the identified gaps, challenges, and issues. Be realistic and straightforward about every aspect of the proposed project design and ensure project activities and services are attainable, meaningful, and measurable. Discuss the potential of the project to build on similar or related efforts. Determine procedures for quality control and continuous improvement of the project, and work toward sustainability of the project. Consider what are the issues the proposal is attempting to address. How does the proposed project expand or strengthen the institution's capacity and ability to address the needs of the target population? Does the application identify clear goals, objectives, and outcomes to be achieved by the project? How do the objectives relate to the project goals and anticipated outcomes? Are they measurable? How will the project continue after the grant? If the project is successful, what improvements or systemic changes are expected? How do we ensure the project continues or produces lasting change beyond the federal funding period? And how will the applicant address the priorities? Selection criteria, quality of the management plan. The Secretary considers the quality of the management plan for the proposed project. In determining the quality of the management plan for the proposed project, the Secretary considers one or more of the following factors: the feasibility of the management plan to achieve project objectives and goals on time and within budget, including clearly defined responsibilities, timelines, and milestones for accomplishing project tasks. The extent to which the time commitments of the project director and principal investigator and other key project personnel are appropriate and adequate to meet the objectives of the proposed project. The extent to which the key personnel in the project, when hired, have the qualifications required for the proposed project, including formal training or work experience in fields related to the objectives of the project, and represent or have lived experiences of the target population. The qualifications, including relevant training and experience of project consultants or subcontractors, and the quality of the mechanisms the applicant will use to broadly disseminate information and resources on its project to support further development, adaptation, or replication by other entities to implement project components in additional settings or with other populations. Project narrative tips and questions to consider for this selection criteria include: forecast and create an implementation and management plan that is realistic. Dedicate adequate resources and time to the project components, including clearly defining the roles and responsibilities of the project's key personnel, as well as pertinent project personnel at the subaward and partnership levels. Carefully estimate the budget and ensure that all costs are allowable, allocable, and reasonable. We do not determine the time and effort of key personnel. You should set the percentage based on what you deem appropriate and explain why. And this should be well explained in your management plan and budget. Provide CVs for all project personnel at the lead applicant institutional organization, as well as any pertinent project personnel at the subaward or partner entity. If an individual has not yet been hired, you may want to upload a job description. And consider, how will the proposed project be managed and who will manage the various components? What is the plan to ensure proper and efficient management of the project, including the methods of coordination across organizational units, partners, stakeholders, etc.? And will the management plan enable the institution or organization to achieve the goals and objectives of the proposed project on time and within budget, including clearly defined responsibilities, timelines, and milestones for accomplishing project tasks? And finally, selection criteria, quality of project evaluation. The Secretary considers the quality of the evaluation or other evidence building of the proposed project. In determining the quality of the evaluation or other evidence building, the Secretary considers one or more of the following factors: the extent to which the methods of evaluation or other evidence building are thorough, feasible, relevant, and appropriate to the goals, objectives, and outcomes of the proposed project, and the extent to which the methods of evaluation or other evidence building will provide performance feedback and provide formative diagnostic or interim data that is a periodic assessment of progress toward achieving intended outcomes. Project narrative tips and questions to consider include: a strong evaluation plan should be included in the application narrative and should be used as appropriate to shape the development and implementation of the project from the beginning of the grant period to the end. The plan should include benchmarks to monitor progress towards specific project objectives and outcome measures to assess the impact of the grant-funded activities. More specifically, the plan should respond to the factors listed in the evaluation plan section of the selection criteria. Identify project-specific measures to build the project evaluation assessments. Choose metrics and evaluation methods that align to the goals, objectives, and outcomes of the project, and that will produce evidence about the project's effectiveness. Discuss the potential for replication of the project and implementation in other settings, and you may work with an internal or external evaluator and you should select an evaluator that works best based on your project's needs and evaluation design. Consider what metrics will be used to measure progress, and are they clearly aligned to the goals of the project? Does the application include methods of evaluation for examining the effectiveness of the project? How will you determine that the methods of evaluation are thorough, feasible, and appropriate to the goals, objectives, and outcomes of the project? Are objectives clear and measurable? How will the evaluation be used to inform continuous improvement? The TGIY program has 3 required performance measures, and these are used to evaluate the overall effectiveness of this program. These measures constitute the indicators of success for this program, and consequently, we advise applicants under this program to give careful consideration to these measures in conceptualizing the approach and evaluation of its proposed project. If funded, you will be required to collect and report data in your project's annual performance report related to the performance measures that are listed here. The 3 performance measures for this program are the number and percentage of project participants enrolled in a post-secondary education program, the number and percentage of project participants earning a certificate, degree, or other credential, and finally, the number and percentage of project participants active in internships, pre-apprenticeships, and registered apprenticeships, or other work experiences. Again, as stated, applicants, if funded, will be required to report annually on your project's progress. So grantees must submit an annual performance report with information that is responsive to these performance measures. If you apply for a grant under this competition, you must ensure that you have in place the necessary processes and systems to comply with the reporting requirements in 2 CFR Part 170, should you receive funding. And at the end of your project period, you must submit a final performance report, including financial information as directed by the Secretary. If you receive a multi-year award, you must submit an annual performance report and the most current performance and financial expenditure information. You may also be required to report more frequently. So now we will move in navigating grants.gov and the application checklist. The following slides contain screenshots that will just serve as a reference for you to use as you prepare your application and prepare to apply. So this is the grants.gov homepage where you will locate the funding opportunity for this grant program so that you may apply. There's a basic search criteria in which you will include the application number that has been assigned for this grant. Once the grant opportunity has been located, you will be directed to this page where you will be able to access the application package and the related documents required to apply. The forms that are required in your application are listed here, your standard forms. First is the application for federal assistance and the Department of Education Supplemental Information Form SF-424. Your budget information will be entered in SF-424A, which is the budget information for non-construction programs. You are also required to submit an abstract form, which will contain your project abstract, project narrative. So that is your narrative that addresses in order the selection criteria applicable to this program, to this competition, and then your budget narrative, which will outline your expected expenditures, your proposed expenditures. Then there's the other attachments form, and this form will contain your response to the optional competitive preference priority, which is worth an additional 10 points if adequately addressed, any resumes or curriculum vitae, letters of support from all members of your consortium or other partners that you propose to work with, in addition to proof of nonprofit status to meet eligibility. And those 4 examples of ways you can demonstrate eligibility have been presented in a previous slide. And then finally, assurances and certifications. There are 2 forms that 2 assurances or certifications that must also be included. They are the disclosure of lobbying activities, so standard form LLL, and then the grants.gov lobbying form. This application checklist is also located in your ANI, or the announcement notice and instructions. So again, your standard document here, starting with the SF-424 and the supplemental information form for SF-424. So this form requires basic identifying information about the applicant and the application. Please provide all requested information. When applying electronically in grants.gov, you will need to ensure that your unique entity identifier, or UEI, on your application is the same UEI as your organization uses. Applicants are advised to complete the application first. So complete the SF-424 first. Grants.gov will automatically insert the correct ALN, or assistance listing number, and program name automatically wherever needed on other forms. Please do not attach any narratives, supporting files, or application components to the SF-424. Although this form accepts attachments, Ed will only review materials and files attached in accordance with the instructions provided within this application. Budget information for non-construction programs, or the SF-424A, has 6 sections. And while the form includes several sections and boxes, please use the information below to complete only the necessary sections. So section A, in the budget summary, you enter the name of the grant program for which you are requesting funds. You enter the ALN number, so it's the Transitioning Gang Involved Youth to Higher Education Program, and the ALN is 84.116Y. Section 1E is federal, so that includes the total amount requested for the entire performance period. And the amount you enter will auto-populate. So again, you're including the total amount for the entire performance period, which is up to 48 months. The non-federal section of this form, you're only including an amount if you propose to include any non-federal financial resources as part of this project. Including any non-federal funds to meet any cost sharing requirements, but there are none for this program. If not including non-federal financial resources, leave this section blank or include a zero, enter a zero. And then for line 1G, if using grants.gov, the total amount included here will be auto-calculated based on what was included in 1E and 1F. So again, the SF424A has 6 sections, A through F. And again, while this form includes several sections and boxes, only use information to complete the necessary sections. So section B is the budget category and your object class categories. So listed below are the categories that you will need to further describe in the budget narrative. You will provide a breakdown by by category for each year of the project in the budget narrative. If using grants.gov, line 6, column 1 will be auto-populated with the name of the program for which you are requesting funding. So again, all of the expenses that you outline in section B, you should also further describe in the budget narrative. And it should be described for each year of the project. So 6A covers personnel, salaries and wages only. 6B, the organization's normal fringe benefits contribution that may be charged to the program. Leave this line blank if the fringe benefits applicable to direct salaries and wages are treated as part of the indirect cost. 6C indicates any travel costs of employees and participants only. Equipment is in line 6D. So this is the cost of tangible, non-expendable personal property that has a usefulness greater than 1 year and acquisition costs that are lesser of the capitalization level established by the applicant entity for financial statement purposes, or $10,000 per article. Lower limits may be established to maintain consistency with the applicant's policy. And in line 6E is supplies. So you show all tangible, expendable personal property. So direct supplies and materials differ from equipment in that they are consumable, expendable, and of a relatively low unit cost. Supplies purchased with grant funds should directly benefit the grant project and be necessary for achieving the goals of the project. Contractual is line 6F. The contractual category should include all costs specifically incurred with actions that the applicant takes in conjunction with an established internal procurement system and include consultant fees, expenses, and travel costs in this category if the consultant services are obtained through a written binding agreement or contract. Line 6G is construction. So construction funds are not authorized unless specified by the program. If construction is allowable, include the amount request for construction costs. Construction is not allowable for this program, so you would leave this section blank. And in line 6H, you indicate all direct costs not covered in lines 1 through 6. For example, costs such as space rental, required fees, honoraria, and travel, where a contract is not in place. And if applicable, use stipends under other. If stipends are included under other, do not include stipends when calculating the indirect cost. And do not include costs that are included in the indirect cost rate. So section B, again, is a continuation of budget categories where you have the total direct costs in line 6I. 6J is where you include information regarding your indirect cost rate. And then the total costs, which is a combination of lines 6I and J, should equal, this number should be equal to the sum of lines 6I and 6J. Again, if using grants.gov, this number is auto-calculated. The sum for column 1, labeled project year 6, should also be equal to the item 15A on the application cover sheet of your SF 424. Line 7 is program income, and you may leave this field blank. Section C contains non-federal resources, and this section should only be completed if you are proposing a cost share or if the program for which you are applying requires a non-federal cost share. Section D are your forecasted cash needs, both federal and non-federal. For line 13, for federal forecasted needs, the total for the first year column will automatically calculate based on the funding amounts included in quarters 1 through 4. These quarters apply to year 1 only. Enter the forecasted cash needs from federal sources for each quarter of the first program year. The amount entered for each quarter will be used to auto-calculate the amount in line 5 and is your forecasted needs. You will have an opportunity to provide updates to these quarterly amounts in post-award. For line 14 of your non-federal forecasted needs, the total for the first year column will automatically calculate based on the funding amounts included in quarters 1 through 4. These quarters apply to year 1 only. Leave this blank for each quarter if you are not including any non-federal funds. If including non-federal funds, enter the forecasted cash needs from non-federal sources for the first quarter of the first program year. If not applicable, leave blank. And again, line 15 will auto-calculate information contained in lines 13 and 14. Section E is the budget estimate of the federal funds needed for balance of the project. So this section collects information for future funding periods. And while the columns are labeled first through fourth, this is the section where you will include the total amount of federal funds requested for years 2 through 4 for 4-year projects. You are only including the total amount of federal funds requested for the out years beyond year 1. The total amount in section D, line 13, plus the total amount in the out years should match the project total requested in Section A of line 5E. And here is a breakdown of what information should be included on line 16 in columns A, B, C, and D. Section F is other budget information. So line 21 would be direct charges. You may leave the field blank. Line 22, your indirect charges. So you enter the type of indirect rate that will be in effect during the funding period. And line 23 are for remarks, which you may leave blank. So your abstract should serve as a quick reference to your application. And please include the items below in the order listed and use the same number format. To complete the information accurately, you will need to provide the following details. Number 1, the lead applicant institution or organization. Number 2, partner entities. So here you'll list partner entities involved in the project, mentioning their type as well. Examples are provided here. You will also include your project title, the absolute priorities addressed. Again, both absolute priorities 1 and 2 must be addressed, so be sure to identify each and briefly describe how they each will be addressed. Competitive preference priorities addressed if applicable. If you are responding to the competitive preference priority, then you want to make sure that you have included the required letter or designation of endorsement, and that would be in the other attachments form. But you want to state on the abstract, on your abstract page, if you are addressing the competitive preference priority or not. You also want to include the target population, the proposed activities and objectives, proposed project outcomes, and the proposed consortium partners that you plan to partner with for the purpose of meeting absolute priority 1. And again, this abstract is required and should be attached to the abstract form. Your project narrative. This section should be attached as a single document, and it is in accordance to the instructions in grants.gov and organized in the following manner: to include the following parts to expedite the review process. Ensure that you're only attaching the ed-approved file types detailed in the common instructions. And when attaching files, you should limit the size of your file, of their file names. So in your project narrative, you want to include the table of contents and the application narrative. Ed encourages applicants to limit this section of the application to the equivalent or no more than 65 pages. Again, your application narrative does not apply, the page limit does not apply to the cover sheet, the budget section, including the narrative justification, the one-page abstract, resumes, bibliography, etc. The recommended page limit applies to the actual project narrative. And your project narrative is your response to the selection criteria. The budget narrative should be attached as a single document to the budget narrative attachment form. And it should provide a budget narrative for the requested federal funds for each year of the project, the entire 48-month performance period. So again, it requires an itemized budget breakdown, and it should be reasonable and allocable and allowable. Here is a breakdown of the categories to be included in the budget narrative. They will look very familiar to you because they are also in the budget form 424A. You have personnel, fringe benefits, travel, equipment, supplies, contractual, construction, but again, construction funds are not authorized, so there would be no funds requested for construction. And then other. You also have indirect costs. This program uses an indirect cost rate. And listed here under indirect costs are a number of helpful reference regulations for your reference. And then, of course, the total costs, which is the total of the direct costs and indirect costs. So here's additional guidance related to your budget narrative. It provides an opportunity for you to identify the nature and amount of your proposed expenditures and should provide sufficient detail to enable reviewers and project staff to understand how the requested funds will be used, how much will be expended, and the relationship between the requested funds and the project's activities and outcomes. So in accordance with 34 CFR 75.232, Ed staff will perform a cost analysis for each recommended project to make sure that the costs relate to the activities and the objectives of the project and that they're reasonable, allowable, and allocable. Ed may delete or reduce costs from the budget during this review. You are encouraged to review the cost principles, 2 CFR 200 subpart E. And for questions on allowable costs, please contact us at the TGIY mailbox, which is tgiy-hep@ed.gov. Here are some additional budget tips that may prove helpful to you as you develop your project narrative and as you develop your budget. Your other attachment forms, as we've discussed earlier, should include your response to the CPP or the competitive preference priority, should you choose to address it, your proof of nonprofit status, and additional documentation such as resumes and CVs, letters of commitment, proprietary information, bibliography, if applicable. It is recommended that CVs be no more than 3 pages. You're attaching all CVs and resumes as one single document. Attach all letters of commitment as a single document. And they should briefly describe what services and resources the partner will be contributing to the project, and attach the bibliography, if applicable, as a single document. But all of these combined single documents would be attached to the other attachments form. So again, here in regards to additional support documentation, This just again stresses that these documents should be attached to the other attachments forms. Subgrantees are permitted under this competition and should be described. And the subgrantees do not need to be the same entity. However, they must meet the eligibility requirements for this competition. Meaning a lead applicant can only provide subgrants to the following entities: IHEs and public and private nonprofits and agencies. If a subgrantee is a nonprofit, they must demonstrate its nonprofit status according to the requirements and the eligibility criteria. So again, as you demonstrate your nonprofit eligibility, please ensure that any proposed subgrantees or partners that you have that same documentation for them as well, and it is included. So here again, just reiterates the requirements for the inclusion of subgrantees or partners and how they must demonstrate their eligibility as well. So here in the budget, applicants must clearly identify all contractors and subawardees in the project narrative and the budget narrative. And applicants are strongly advised to provide formal signed support or commitment letters from partner institutions or organizations as well. And be sure again to list each partner and their entity type in the abstract. And examples are provided here. So in the budget narrative, the specific details of each subaward must be provided in a separate detailed budget narrative for each year of the project period. And they must comply with the administrative requirements of the award, including the indirect cost rate limitations. And then finally, your assurances and certifications. So again, there are two that are required: the disclosure of lobbying activities, or standard form LLL, and then the grants.gov lobbying form. So be sure to complete all of the required assurances and certifications and include all required information in the appropriate place on each form. While it is required to submit the lobbying form that best meets an applicant's situation, the two forms are classified as optional in grants.gov to avoid submission errors and when only one lobbying form is submitted. But again, for these two, they must be included in your application package, even though they're classified as optional. Please complete them each in their entirety. So the following slides contain application submission information for you. So again, you are to follow the common instructions and information for applicants to Department of Education discretionary grant programs. A link has been provided, but it contains requirements and information on how to submit an application. Registration, so you must be registered in both sam.gov and grants.gov. And if you are already registered, make sure your registration is active and up to date. Grants.gov registration involves several steps, including registration on sam.gov. So while you may begin working on your application, you cannot apply until all of the registration steps are complete. So once your sam.gov registration is active, it will take 24 to 48 hours for the information to be available in grants.gov before you can apply through grants.gov. So please, if you have not, please make sure your registrations are active. And here's information for you to access both sam.gov and grants.gov in order to ensure that you register and complete the registration process. Do not wait until the last minute to apply. Grants.gov will put a date and time stamp on your application and process it after it's been fully uploaded. If grants.gov rejects your application, you will need to resubmit successfully to grants.gov before 11:59 p.m. Eastern on the deadline date, which is June 23rd. You must provide your UEI on your application that was used when you registered as an authorized organization representative on grants.gov. So again, make sure that your UEI is linked appropriately. And in grants.gov, applicant must apply online using Workspace, a shared environment in grants.gov, where members of a grant team may simultaneously access and edit different web forms within the application. So provided here's more information regarding the Workspace and how to use it. So here are steps for verification. When grants.gov receives your application, in which it will be timed and validated. It will inform you if it's timed and validated successfully. And again, making sure that it is received by the deadline, if not earlier, and that the application status should be validated, received by agency, or agency tracking number assigned. If the date and time received is after the deadline, your application is considered late. If your application has a status of received, it is still awaiting validation by grants.gov. Once validation is complete, the status will either change to validated or rejected with errors. And if the status is rejected with errors, your application has not been received successfully. And some of the reasons grants.gov may reject an application can be found at this link here. So again, it's highly encouraged that you submit earlier rather than to wait until the last minute. If you have problems, this slide provides links and contact information for grants.gov for assistance. And as we move into application review, we remind potential applicants that in reviewing applications, the secretary may consider the following: that the information in each application be relevant to the criterion, priority, or other requirement that applies to the selection of applications for new grants, concerning the applicant's performance and use of funds under a previous award under any department program, and concerning the applicant's failure under any department program to submit a performance report or its submission of a performance report of unacceptable quality. Again, before making awards, department staff will screen applications submitted in accordance with the requirements in the notice to determine whether the applicant has met eligibility and the other requirements, including whether an application may fail to meet general terms and conditions applicable to awards funds referenced elsewhere in this notice. The screening process may occur at various stages of the review and selection process. Applicants that are determined to be ineligible will not receive a grant regardless of whether the application was included in the peer review process. Applications not selected for funding will be informed of the Secretary's decision in accordance with 34 CFR 75.218. So as it relates to the application review, peer reviewers have expertise in areas pertinent to the grant program. They are screened for conflicts of interest to ensure a fair and competitive review process. And they will be the individuals that will read, prepare a written evaluation of, and score of assigned applications using the selection criteria provided in this notice. So for this competition, a panel of non-federal reviewers will review each application in accordance to the selection criteria and review and determine a score during the review process. In the case of tiebreakers, as it relates to the final scoring of an application, should two or more applications with the same final score be listed and there are insufficient funds to fully support each of the applications, the department will apply two tiebreakers. The first, under the first tiebreaker, the secretary will select the application or applications with the smallest amount of funding allocated to indirect costs. If a tie remains, the second tiebreaker will be utilized, which is funding the application or applications that propose to serve geographic areas that have been previously underserved by this program. The following slides are screenshots of the forms used that will be accepted as part of your application. So they are the first is the SF424 form. As well as the Ed 424A form by section. So on each slide, you will find either a screenshot and or additional information for completing the form. And this information, the information contained on each slide, again, just serves as a reference for you to make the application process easier to complete. Of course, as you are completing your application package and you require any technical assistance, please feel free to reach out to the TGIY mailbox for assistance. We are always looking for individuals with expertise for the various programs that the department administers. And for this program, we are looking for individuals with expertise in post-secondary readiness and programming, work-based learning, supporting career pathways, and the development or expansion of high-quality short-term programs aligned with the purpose of the TGIY program. So if you are interested in serving as a reviewer or have colleagues who may also be interested, these slides contain information on the requirements to serve as a peer reviewer and instructions on how to apply. You may also submit your resume or CV to the TGIY mailbox as well. And this slide contains applicant resources. Again, that may be helpful to you as you prepare your application. So please feel free to refer to these applicant resources as frequently as needed. For questions after today's session, please review posted FAQs on the TGIY program page, or again, email the program at tgiy-hep@ed.gov for assistance. And again, thank you very much for joining me today. We look forward to receiving your applications, and we appreciate your interest and your hard work to support new educational and workforce opportunities for gang-involved youth. Thank you very much.